The limerence of a dream. It all started that fateful day in August 2007. It was a quiet afternoon in my house in Pisco, a coastal city south of Lima. My father and I were watching television in the living room, while my mother was preparing dinner in the kitchen. Suddenly, we felt a strong tremor that made us jump off the couch. The floor vibrated with roaring fury, objects fell like fragile glass and exploded like dynamite when they hit the floor. I felt as if Pachamama came to life and shook off everything that bothers her. I heard a scream that made me come to my senses. It was my mother asking for help. My father was coughing, shouting our names. I could see among the dense dust the blurred presence of my mother. I ran as fast as possible. But Pachamama's anger attracted me to her. I did not lose hope, and I finally had it between my hands. It only took seconds when I pushed myself and saw the wall of a wall fall on his delicate presence. Suddenly everything became dark and I woke up in a hospital next to my father Bartolome. And Mom. My father looked at me sadly and said, "I'm sorry, son. I'm very sorry." For the first time I felt anger with the divine. It took away the most precious thing in my life. I was only 15 years old. "Because you are so cruel, God." I remember the melodious voice when he told me stories, that melody that protected me in my dreams. Now nothing belonged to me anymore. I only cried out of rage, helplessness, fear and sadness. After the earthquake our life changed completely. We lost our house, our belongings, and most importantly, my mother. My father and I were left alone in the world, without family or friends to support us. We moved to Lima, the capital of the country, where my father got a job as a taxi driver. We stayed in a small rented room in a poor and dangerous part of the city. I had to adapt to school and dedicate myself to working in the afternoons. I started working as a mechanic's assistant in the neighborhood, under the sun and humid cold, exposed to all kinds of risks. This is how the years passed, between poverty and sadness. I grew up without illusions or hopes, resigned to my destiny. My father became increasingly bitter and quiet, immersed in alcohol and the memory of my mother. The only escape he had was sleep. Every night I went to bed hoping to dream about her. By her I mean Laura. Laura was a girl I met in Pisco when she was 14 years old. She was the daughter of some tourists who came to visit the city for a few months. She was blonde, with blue eyes and snow-white skin. She had a sweet smile and a melodious voice. I saw it for the first time in the central park of Pisco, where I was playing with my friends. She was sitting on a bench reading a book. I was mesmerized by her beauty. A boy approached and grabbed his arm with energy and said, "Let's go." She didn't want to. I approached her without thinking twice. I looked at the boy and punched him. He looked at me and told me that he was going to tell his father and ran away. "Thank you, he is my brother." "Hello, sorry, I thought I was hurting you." "What is your name?" "I wonder." "My name is Lucio." "Nice name." "My name is Laura. It's better that I go, my parents will be upset with me." "See you tomorrow." Told me. Yes, of course. This is how our friendship began. During the months he was in Pisco we saw each other every day in the park or on the beach. We played, we laughed, we talked about everything and nothing. He told me that he liked to read adventure and fantasy books, like Harry Potter. I told him that I liked playing soccer and watching action movies. Despite our differences we got along very well. I felt something special for Laura, something I had never felt for anyone. It was a mixture of admiration, tenderness and desire. He wanted to always be with her, hug her, kiss her, protect her. But I knew it was an impossible dream. She was from another world, one very different from mine. She had a wealthy family who loved her and cared for her. She had a bright future ahead of her. I had nothing to offer him. He was just a poor boy with a wonderful mother and a non-talkative father. So I settled for being his friend and enjoying his company while it lasted. The last day I saw her was the happiest and saddest of my life. It was the day before his departure. We met in the park as usual and spent the afternoon together. We walked on the beach, ate ice cream, rode the Ferris wheel. As dusk fell at night we sat on a bench to watch the stars. She leaned on my shoulder and I put my arm around her waist. "Lucio," he told me in a soft voice, "I'm leaving tomorrow." "I know," I answered hoarsely. "I'll miss you a lot." "Me too," I responded, breaking the lump in my throat. I wanted to tell her that I was deeply in love and that I was happy to have met her, but we stayed silent for a few minutes, looking at the sky illuminated by the city lights. "Lucio," she said, breaking the silence again, "can I ask you a favor?" "Of course, whatever you want." She leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Kiss me." I felt the involuntary impulse in my body and emotions. It is as if everyone had agreed except my common sense, and I slowly grabbed his cheek and approached him. I felt that indescribable breath in both of us. I closed my eyes and we kissed as if we were one and the same. Pachamama was a witness of our love. We smiled at each other without saying anything. We hugged each other tightly, as if we wanted to become one. We stayed like that until it was time to say goodbye. She gave me one last kiss on the cheek and said, "I love you, Lucio." "I love you too." She got into the taxi that was waiting for her with her family. He waved goodbye to me from the window. I returned the gesture with a sad smile. The taxi started and drove down the street until it was out of sight. I was left alone in the park, looking at the void he had left in my heart. After that night I never heard from Laura again. He didn't leave me any phone number or email address. He only told me that he lived in Spain and that maybe one day he would return to Pisco. I kept his memory deep in my heart. She became my recurring dream, my obsession. I couldn't stop thinking about her angelic face, about her melodious voice, about her sweet kiss. I couldn't forget her, nor did I want to. She was the only light that illuminated my dark existence. Months and years passed. I finished my degree in literature, but I couldn't get a job in my field. I continued with my routine and miserable life. I worked as a mechanic's assistant. In my free time I wrote a fictional novel about my life and suffering. My father slowly sank into the alcohol and depression. When he arrived at dawn he would start crying inconsolably drunk, and the next day he would be indifferent. I kept waiting every night to dream of Laura. With the arrival of cyber, having a nick and connecting with people from other countries was something very hopeful to find Laura, until one day I received a message on my social network. It was a message from Spain. My name was written on it. Could it be Laura? I opened the message with nervousness and excitement. It said like this: "Dear Lucio, I found you thanks to the internet. I hope you are well. I'm fine too. I am writing this message to tell you something very important. Something I should have told you a long time ago. I am writing to tell you that I love you." Those 4 words took my breath away. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Did Laura love me? After so much time. Why was he telling me now? I continued reading the message anxiously. She told me that since she left Pisco she hadn't stopped thinking about me. That he had tried to forget me, but he couldn't. I had had other boys, but none filled the immense void that I had left. He had realized that I was the love of his life. That he regretted not having looked for me sooner. He wanted to see me again and for me to be by his side forever. At the end of the message he gave me his phone number and email address. He asked me to call or write to him as soon as possible. He said he was waiting for me with open arms. The love he felt for me was growing greater and greater, and that distance could not be an impediment to not seeing me. I finished reading the message, went to print the message, folded it and kept it in my chest. I felt a mixture of joy and confusion. What should I do? How should I respond to him? On the one hand, I was happy to know that Laura loved me, did not forget me, and that she wanted me to be by her side to be with me. On the other hand, I was scared by what that entailed. How could I go with her to Spain? How could I leave my father alone in Lima? How could I adapt to a world so different from mine? Besides, how would I know if Laura was sincere? What if it was just a whim? Or who knows, he just wanted to play with my feelings? Will it be a lie? I spent several days thinking about what to do. I couldn't get Laura out of my head. Every time I read the message I felt a lump in my throat. I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to hear his voice. I wanted to tell her that I loved her too. But I was also afraid. Afraid of making a mistake. Fear of suffering. Fear of losing everything. Finally I got up the courage and decided to call her. I went to a phone booth and nervously dialed his number. It rang several times until someone answered. "Hello," said a female voice on the other end of the line. "Laura?" I asked with a trembling voice. "Pike," she said with surprise and excitement. "Yes, it's me. Pike. What a joy to hear you. You don't know how much I've missed you." "I've missed you too, Laura." We remained silent for a few seconds, not knowing what to say. "Lucio, did you receive my message?" she finally asked. "Yes, I received it." "And, what did you think? What do you think? What do you feel?" she asked anxiously. I took a deep breath and told him. "Laura. I love you." Upon hearing them, Laura let out a cry of joy and told me. "Pike. I love you too. I love you with all my soul." We started crying with happiness. We couldn't believe that after so long we had met again. We said 1,000 nice things to each other. We told each other what our days had been like without each other. We apologized for the lost time. We promised that we would never be separated again. We asked ourselves a crucial question: how could we be together? Laura told me she had a solution. She indicated that she had a lot of money and that she worked as an actress in one of the most famous theaters in Madrid and that she could buy me a plane ticket to go to Spain. He told me that he was waiting for me at the Madrid airport with open arms. I had a house where we could live together. He told me that I could work in his father's company. He had everything I needed to be happy. I did not know what to say. It was a tempting offer. It was the opportunity to fulfill my dream. But it was also a huge risk. It was leaving everything I knew behind. It was facing the unknown. Take a leap into the void. I told Laura that I needed to think about it carefully, talk to my father and see what he thought. He told me he understood. He gave me time to decide. He respected my decision whatever it was, but he also stressed to me that it should not take long. That every day without me was torture. That he needed me by his side, he loved me more than anything in the world. After getting off the phone with Laura, I went home to talk to my father. I told him everything that had happened. I told him about Laura, her message, the call, and his proposal. I showed her the photo she had emailed me. It was a photo of her smiling in front of a white building with a Spanish flag. She was beautiful. My father listened to me attentively and looked at me tenderly. "Son, this is something very serious. It is not a decision you can take lightly." "I know, Dad. You have to think very carefully about what you want to do. Making a decision is not easy, you always have to weigh the pros and cons. You have to be aware of the consequences. If you decide to go with Laura to Spain, you will have to leave everything you know here. You will have to adapt to a different culture, a different language, different laws. You will have to start from scratch in a place where no one knows you or owes you anything. But you will also have the opportunity to live a great adventure. To discover a new and fascinating world, to learn new and enriching things. Be with the woman you love and be happy with her." My father sighed and hugged me tightly. "Son, whatever you decide to do, I want you to know that I support you. I love you very much and I only want your well-being. I will always be proud of you." I gave him a hug and thanked him for his words. Then I went to my room to think about my decision. I spent several days thinking about my decision. It was not easy. There were many things at stake. On the one hand, there was Laura and her love. On the other hand, there was my father and my country. I cared a lot about both of them. They were both part of me. But in the end I realized I could only choose one. And I chose Laura. I chose to go with her to Spain. I chose to follow my heart. I chose to bet on happiness. It was not a selfish decision. It was a brave decision. My father understood it. He told me he was happy for me. He told me he wished me the best. He helped me pack my bags and accompanied me to the airport. There we said goodbye with a hug and a few tears. I love you very much, son. I love you very much too, Dad. Then I got on the plane and it took off for Madrid. During the flight I felt many emotions. I felt nostalgic for what I was leaving behind. I was afraid of what awaited me ahead. I was excited about what I was going to experience with Laura. When I arrived at the Madrid airport, I saw her in the crowd. She was radiant. She was wearing a red dress and holding a white rose in her hand. I ran towards her and hugged her tightly. She kissed me with passion and told me, "I love you, Julian. I love you more than ever. I love you too, Laura. I also love you more than ever." We look into each other's eyes and smile. Welcome to Spain. Thanks, Laura. Are you ready for our new life together? She asked me. Yes, I'm ready, I responded. We took our suitcases and left the airport. We got into a taxi that took us to Laura's house. It was a beautiful house, with a garden full of flowers and a blue pool. We went in and Laura showed me the rooms. There was one for me, with a big bed and a desk full of books. There was another one for her, with a closet full of clothes and a dresser full of makeup. And there was another one for both of us, with a huge bed and a balcony with views of the city. This is our house, Lucio, Laura told me. Here we are going to be happy. I hugged her and told her. Thanks, Laura. Thank you for everything, I don't know what to say, this all seems like a dream. She kissed me and said, "You're welcome, Lucio. Thank you for coming, and the dream is that we will both be together until the end of our lives." We lay in bed and made love like we had never done before. It was something magical, sublime, divine. We felt that our bodies merged into one, that our souls rose to heaven. We felt that we were the happiest beings in the world. There is no more beautiful description than the passionate love for two people converted into divine energy. Soon, Lucio adapted to his new life in Spain. Laura introduced him to her friends, her family, and her work. She was a famous and successful actress, who starred in a very popular television series. Lucio was proud of her and supported her in everything. He also dedicated himself to writing, his passion since he was a child. He wrote stories and novels inspired by his love story with Laura and his memories of Peru. Lucio and Laura were very happy together. They loved each other with intensity and passion. They made plans for the future, such as getting married and having children. Lucio proposed to Laura and she excitedly accepted. He bought her a diamond ring and put it on her finger. They kissed and swore eternal love. But their happiness did not last long. One day, Laura confessed to Lucio that she had breast cancer. She had recently found out and was very scared. She had started treatment with a doctor friend of hers, named Julio. He was a very prestigious gynecologist. She had hopes of being cured and she loved him more than ever. Lucio was shocked and distressed by the news. He couldn't believe that his beloved was sick and could die. He told her that he would be with her always, now more than ever, and that he loved her even more. He told him not to lose faith and to fight the disease together. Lucio accompanied Laura to her chemotherapy sessions, to her medical appointments and to her exams. He took care of her with love and patience, kept her company, read her stories, made her laugh. I saw her suffer from the side effects of the treatment, such as hair loss, nausea, fatigue. I saw her lose weight and color, but not lose her smile. Lucio also suffered from Laura's illness. He felt helpless, sad, guilty. She wondered why this was happening to her, why to them, why to him. He remembered his mother's death in the earthquake in Peru and felt that history was repeating itself. He took refuge in writing, as a way to vent and express his feelings. But the worst was yet to come. One day, Lucio discovered that Laura was unfaithful to him with Julio, his doctor friend. He found out from a message that arrived on Laura's cell phone while she was sleeping. It was a message from Julio telling her that he loved her and that he wanted to see her soon. Lucio felt immense anger and deep disappointment. He couldn't believe that Laura would do that to him, after everything they had experienced together, after everything he had done for her. Lucio decided to confront Laura and ask her for explanations. He showed him Julio's message and asked him if what he said was true. Laura got nervous and tried to deny it, but Lucio didn't believe her. He told her that he knew everything, that he knew that she was cheating on him with Julio, and worst of all, he knew that she was pregnant with him. Laura began to cry and confessed the whole truth. She told him that she had started a relationship with Julio when she found out about his illness, that it was a mistake, a slip, a weakness. She told her that Julio had comforted her and supported her when she needed it most, that he had been a refuge for her. She told him that she didn't know she was pregnant, that she had found out recently, that she didn't know what to do. She told him that she was very sorry, that she had ruined everything, that she loved him and not Julio. Lucio didn't want to listen anymore. He felt betrayed, humiliated, hurt. He told her that he didn't love her, that he didn't forgive her, that she should get out of his life. He told him to go with Julio, to stay with his son, to forget about him. He told her that she was a liar, an unfaithful, an ungrateful person. Laura became desperate and begged him not to leave her, to forgive her, to understand her. She told him that she was confused, that she was sick, that she was scared. She told him that she needed him, that he was the love of her life, that she couldn't live without him. Lucio ignored him. He turned around and left the house. Laura followed him and asked him to come back, to talk to her, not to abandon her. Lucio got into his car and drove off. Laura ran after him and got in front of the car, trying to stop him. Lucio braked and rolled down the window. Laura approached and begged him. "Please, Lucio, don't leave me. I love you." Lucio looked at her with contempt. "You do not love me. You hate me." And he accelerated the car. Laura got into her car, went after Lucio. She accelerated and passed Lucio. She got out immediately and ran towards the car where Lucio was driving. He braked and turned, but it was too late. He had run over Laura. Laura fell to the ground, bloody and dying. Lucio got out of the car and approached her. He saw her die in his arms, while he said to her, "Forgive me, Lucio. Forgive me." Lucio felt unbearable pain and infinite remorse. He realized what he had done and what he had lost. He shouted with all his might, "Laura! Laura!" But it was too late. The police arrived at the scene and arrested Lucio for Laura's murder. They took him to prison, where he spent several years. There he suffered rejection and mistreatment from the other prisoners and the guards. There he wrote his story in a notebook, as a way to atone for his guilt and to remember Laura. His father in Lima received the news that his son, sad and helpless at not being able to help him, died of cardiac arrest. All these tragedies were a death in life for Lucio. One day, a lawyer interested in his case and a reader of his novels and stories came to visit him and told him that he had good news for him. The lawyer indicated that Laura committed suicide because she found a letter that she had written before she died, where she explained her reasons and asked Lucio for forgiveness. The letter said that Laura was very depressed because of her illness, her pregnancy, and her infidelity. He said he couldn't stand the pain or the guilt, and he wanted to end it all. She said that she loved Lucio, but that she knew that he would never forgive her, that she hoped that he would be happy and that he would remember her fondly. The lawyer also found a video from a security camera that showed what happened the day of Laura's death. The video showed that Laura got in front of Lucio's car, but that he tried to avoid her and brake. The video showed that Laura threw herself against the car, as if she wanted to be run over. The video showed that Lucio got out of the car and tried to help her, but it was too late. The lawyer presented this evidence before the judge, who accepted that Lucio was innocent and ordered his release. The judge considered that Laura had committed suicide and that Lucio had been the victim of a tragedy. He also told him that Laura's parents had died from COVID-19, he was the only heir to their entire fortune. Lucio couldn't believe what he heard. He felt confused, relieved, sad and guilty at the same time. He didn't know what to do with so much money or with his life. He decided to leave the country and travel the world, seeking to forget his past and find meaning in his existence. During his travels, he met many people who had suffered tragedies similar to his own or worse. He realized that he was not alone in his pain and that there were many people who needed help. He decided to use his fortune to create a foundation dedicated to helping those most in need, especially those affected by natural disasters, wars and diseases. His foundation was called the Limerence of a Dream, in honor of the love story he had experienced with Laura. In addition to helping others, Lucio found another way to express his feelings: writing. He began to write novels of love and motivation, based on his own experiences and those of the people he had met. His novels became very popular and earned him the recognition and affection of millions of readers. Many wrote him letters thanking him for inspiring them and giving them hope. Lucio became a happy and fulfilled man. Although he never forgot Laura or his father, he learned to accept their loss and live with it. He also learned to forgive Julio and himself. He realized that life was a dream, but also a reality. A dream that could be beautiful or terrible, but that always had something to teach us. A reality that could be hard or sweet, but that always had something to offer us. Lucio found the limerence of a dream in his heart. And he shared it with the world.